What is up, you guys? It is Susie from HeyGrillHey.com, and today we are cooking one of my recent favorite recipes on the smoker. It is a smoked al pastor, thinly sliced pork butt that's marinated with all of these delicious spices and seasonings, and then slow smoked with some grilled pineapple. Put it in some tacos. The flavor profiles are gonna blow your mind. It is the ultimate kind of mashup flavor food, and I totally dig it. I think you guys are gonna love it too. Let's do it. I love al pastor tacos. It's kind of a really original mashup food with traditional Mexican flavors and an Eastern European cooking style that's that stacked thinly sliced meat on a vertical rotisserie or spit. And we're gonna mash it up even further and kind of take it into the barbecue world and cook it on our smoker so we get all of those smoky flavors into the meat. It's absolutely delicious. And first we need to build our marinade. And we got a few ingredients, so look at the ingredients list at the website or on the app and follow along while we make this beautiful, super delicious al pastor. Okay, medium saucepan over medium heat. I'm gonna melt 2 tablespoons of butter. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of diced white onion and about 4 cloves of minced garlic. Would you like to set up that other camera? Already smells good. That's all we need. Butter, onions, and garlic. We're just gonna let this cook over medium heat for 2 to 3 minutes until the onions are soft and all of that garlic is fragrant. We don't wanna like brown it though. We're not going for browning. To our buttery, oniony, garlic, glorious goodness, we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of chicken stock. Two of these chipotles in adobo sauce, just from the can. These are smoked jalapenos, and they are amazing. We probably added about 2 tablespoons of the adobo sauce. We're also gonna add in 2 dried ancho chilies. Go over that. I should really start opening these before we film. Yeah. Yep.
Or maybe I should.
It's fine. Everything's fine. We're just gonna put the whole things in there, stems and all, and let these simmer in the stock for the next 5 minutes or so. What that's gonna do is partially rehydrate these ancho chilies so that when we put everything in the blender, it's not gonna be chunky or hard pieces of ancho. They're gonna be soft and really just incorporate well to the whole marinade. Okay, ready?
That smells really good.
Smells really good. All right, our ancho chilies have started to suck up some of the moisture from that chicken stock. It's time to add the rest of the ingredients for our marinade. We're gonna add in 1.5 tablespoons of kosher salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of Mexican oregano, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 1/3 cup of white vinegar, and last but not least, achiote paste. And this is kind of a secret ingredient that really gives all of the color, like that super vibrant color, to al pastor. It comes in both a powder and a paste, but one of the main ingredients in here is annatto seed, which is really just gonna give it that insanely vibrant red that you just don't see anywhere else. You need about 1.5 tablespoons. All right, give this all a stir while it's up to a boil. Bring the ingredients together, and then you want to reduce the heat and let this simmer for 4 to 5 minutes so that all of those flavors start to meld together. All right, our marinade has been simmering for the last 4 minutes. I'm just gonna turn off the heat, and we wanna let this cool all the way down to room temperature because you do have to handle those anchos and you don't wanna burn your fingers. And then we get to puree it into that smooth, beautiful, red pasty marinade for our pork shoulder. While our marinade is cooling down, let's talk about the cut of meat that we're using for this al pastor. I am using a boneless pork shoulder, and I actually had my butcher cut this for me, but you can cut it at home if you have a really sharp knife. I just took it down to about a 1/4 inch thickness all the way across, and this is about 6 pounds of pork shoulder. The recipe calls for 4, but the marinade can cover, I think, about 6 or 7 pounds of meat, if that's as much as you would like to do. I want this all to be uniform thickness, so having the butcher slice it was really nice, but I also want it to kind of be square so that when we stack it, it gets really even. Right now I have really long rectangular pieces, so I'm just gonna take my knife, run it down the middle so that I have these even kind of square pieces that will perfectly stack on our vertical spit. Vertical spit, that's the word. Beautiful. I think pork shoulder is the perfect cut for this particular cooking method because it has all this yummy, yummy fat on it. And so it'll be really, really flavorful. And as it roasts, the outside kind of drips down, and we're gonna use that drippy fat to baste and get crunchy on the edges and tender and delightful in the middle. I'm excited. We're just gonna transfer our pork into a big, big bowl where we can easily marinate, and I'm gonna separate each piece of pork because when it's sliced, sometimes it likes to stick together, and I wanna make sure the marinade gets on every single piece of the pork shoulder. Our beautiful marinade has cooled enough for us to move this into the blender. First thing that I'm gonna do is just remove the stems from these ancho chilies because they're a little bit woody and they won't break down in the blender, and they're not gonna add a ton in terms of flavor. So just hold it down with my spoon, lift up the stem, and it comes right off. I'm just gonna pour the contents of our pan into a blender jar carefully. I wanna save every drop. It's like liquid gold. And go. That looks good to me. It smells really good to me also. We're just gonna take our smooth, pureed marinade, pour that over our pork butt in our big bowl, and mix with our hands until that bright red, gorgeous seasoning paste is all over every piece of meat. Just like we separated each piece when we were putting them into the bowl, make sure you're pulling them apart so you get all of that marinade in between each piece of meat. It's super important for the cooking process later because we're gonna stack each piece individually, and we want the seasoning on every single side of every piece of pork. The meat looks perfect. The marinade is evenly distributed. I'm gonna cover this up with some plastic wrap, get it into my refrigerator, and let it marinate. Now you can go with as little as 4 hours on the marinade. I'm gonna push mine to 24 hours because I just wanna shove as much flavor into that pork shoulder as I can. So we'll see you guys back here tomorrow.
And that's a wrap for the day.
All right, you guys. Our al pastor marinade in the bowl is out of the refrigerator, and it is time to start cooking. Now I'm gonna skewer this guy on this cool little skewery plate situation. It's called a Trompo King, but you can also do this on a rotisserie. I've even seen people use 4 skewers and stack it up tall on a baking dish and make that work. So there are multiple ways to go about stacking and cooking your al pastor. Now I have a smoker preheating to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. I really like using cherry wood for this recipe. I think it gives a really great reddish color that adds to what we've already got going on in the marinade. But you can use apple, you could use hickory. If you really wanted a super prominent smoke, you could go with something like mesquite. And I think that would be super delicious. But basically, all we get to do now is take all of this marinated meat and stack it up on this skewer and keep turning it as we go until it's all even and beautifully stacked. So this guy just has a skewer that screws into the bottom. I tested this on my smoker and the tall one will fit, so that's what I'm gonna use because I don't know how tall this guy's gonna go. There's also a smaller option, so just make sure whatever you're using that it's gonna fit on your smoker. Now as I'm layering the meat on, remember how we kind of had rectangle shapes? I'm trying to alternate one way and then the other. And I'll even kind of squish the pieces so that it gives me kind of a roundy, uniform shape. It's not gonna be perfect, which is fine. We just don't want any big pieces of meat like overhanging the other. We want them to all kind of play nicely together. All right, some of these guys might just have like, see this? It's just like an end little string of fat. You can go ahead and pull those off because you don't want them just like hanging loose down the sides, or they'll kind of block some of the yumminess that's gonna be happening from the smoker to the meat. So if there's any big, you know, hangy downies. I kind of have like a thick, super meaty piece that I'm gonna cap it off with. Da-da-da! All right, on to the smoker. This is going to take about 4 hours at 275. That's how long it takes when I do 4 pounds. Like I said, this is a little bit closer to 5.5, 6. So I'm gonna start checking at 4, but it might take a little bit longer, closer to 5 or 5.5. But we're looking for an internal temperature of 145 degrees here, which is different than what you're typically gonna see a pork shoulder cooked to. But because it's sliced thin, because of the marinade, it's gonna be super tender and have the most amazing bite in the tacos. Oh, I have one more note. Are you ready for my other note? Remember how we talked about all the fattiness in here dripping down into the pan? This is why the pan is so important. I'm actually gonna come out with a basting brush every 30 minutes or so, sop up all of the yummy fatty goodness from the bottom of the pan and baste it around this stack of meat. Now, if you're on a rotisserie, make sure that you put a like aluminum pan or something underneath so that it can catch the drippings. It will self-baste, so you might not need to baste during the cooking process, but if it ever looks like it's drying out on top or the sides, go ahead and grab the juices from the bottom of the pan and baste to your heart's content. It's gonna develop a really dark, caramely bark on the outside, and it's just, I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's so pretty. Oh, I swear it fit last time. There we go. Al Pastor has been smoking for about 4 hours. I really do think this is gonna take about 4.5 hours. So I wanna get my pineapple spears on the grill next to the Al Pastor so they can pick up some of that smoky flavor and color. So we're gonna take the top off our pineapple, but we're gonna save it because the pineapple top becomes the crown on top of our beautiful roasty Al Pastor goodness. I'm just gonna take off the bottom, take off the outsides, and then cut it into wedges. So here's the deal with the way that I do my pineapple. Some places like to layer the pineapple in with the meat. Some places like to do it just on top and slice it with the meat. I really like the char grilled flavor that gets smoky when this is actually on the grill itself. So I do mine separate. I feel like you get more pineapple pieces and everybody gets to choose how much pineapple they want in their little Al Pastor taco. And I just think the ease of it is really high up there. So that's why I cut mine into wedges and grill it on the side. I'm just gonna flip these after about 15 minutes or so and let them go until that al pastor is at 145 degrees. Al pastor is at 145 internal. I stuck the thermometer right into the center, the deepest part of the meat, and then pulled it out slowly so that I knew I was hitting that 145 all the way through. It's time to get the meat and the pineapple off of the grill. Big gloves. Look at that color. It's so beautiful. And it definitely looks a little bit dark on the outside. There's some sugar in the marinade. It's nice and barky and crunchy. But when we cut into it, your mind is gonna be blown. There's like these little rivery veins of that bright red marinade. Okay, my mouth's watering.
Don't tell me, show me.
Here's what we're gonna do. Because we want this to be pretty, you've got the top of the pineapple that you reserved. Just carefully work that guy onto the top of your spit. I'm going slow because I don't want to stab myself. Okay. Just because it looks festive, right? We'll get some of our roasty pineapple. And I've also got my taco tray kind of set up with some cilantro, some lime, some white onions, and then I just heated up some tortillas. You can use corn, you can use flour, whatever you like the most. And like I said, I'm gonna chop my pineapple a little bit because I like every taco to have a little bit of pineapple on top.
Oops.
I love grilled pineapple. We've hit moment of truth time. Toppings are all ready. This has been resting for about 10 minutes, and that means that we get to slice into it and make some tacos. Now there are a few tricks to cutting this. You want to start on the outside, use soft, gentle sawing motions with your knife, and you want your pieces to be pretty thin. You don't want to just hack straight into the center of this thing. We want to carve the outside of it off and let all of the meat fall into this basin where all of our delicious juices have been collecting during the cooking process. Now, if you ask me, these are just the perfect little shreddy pieces of delicious porky al pastor goodness. Oh my gosh. Okay. The flavor is amazing. You are certainly getting the smoke from the last 4.5 hours of this being on the smoker, but all the flavors of that marinade are coming right through. It's juicy because it wasn't cooked to very high of a temperature, but it's still incredibly tender. It has this perfect mouth chew, almost a little bit of a snap. Let's make a taco. Got my pork. Some pineapple. A little cilantro for me. Some white diced onion. I love a squeeze of lime. This is a whole moment right here. Look at that. Now I'm about to take a bite that is certainly too large to be flattering, but I want you guys to give this recipe a try at home. I really, really hope you do. And if you do, snap a photo. It is so gorgeous. It deserves to be seen on social media. Use the hashtag HeyGrillHey. That way I can see it and cheer you on your journey to becoming a backyard barbecue hero. We'll catch you guys next time. That's everything. You want to try some?
Wow, babe. That's so good. For real. one of the best tacos I've ever had, man.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to this amazing culture for developing such incredible flavors.
Seriously unreal.
Wow.